So when I first started working for Vendoroo, really I was trying to build belief around AI, getting people to really believe that this thing is really happening, that it could really, really work for them. But somewhere along the lines, it all changed. The technology has proven itself. There is so many people beating their chest about their results that it's undeniable that this can work for you. The new thing that people need to embrace is safety. Right. And the reason why, which I've learned after, traveling the country, going to these conferences, talking to clients, is because most of you have burned an ask or two with your team coming back from broker owner and being like, dude, I just found this thing, let's do it. And it not being the thing. Right. So I sense a lot of hesitancy in AI adoption right now for this round of adoption from the pragmatists because they're worried that they're going to burn an ask. So in my latest round, I've been going around the country talking to folks about, how 500 plus AI implementations later, after bungling, the first 100 or so, our hit rate is not the same as we are today. But what's very, very clear is that nowadays it's really working for people. Our adoption rate is really super high. And most importantly, the AI is giving us the clues. And the clue is implementation is the name of the game, and we see the same three mistakes continuing to happen as folks are rolling out their Agentic AI program with us. So I created a presentation around it. I've been sharing it. I've shared it in Texas. I've shared it in Nashville. I've shared it in Raleigh. Thanks to being invited. I'd love to share it at your local NARPM chapter. If you know somebody that you can invite me to come speak, I'll come out there. I'll do it. But here's the sneak peek of it, right? These are the three mistakes that teams are making when rolling out Agentic AI and how to overcome them. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. So AI, right? Super overwhelming. Super overwhelming. It's everywhere. Let me make sure that this thing's working. Reason why it feels so overwhelming for me is this idea of Moore's Law. Everybody here heard of Moore's Law? The idea that technology doubles every 2 years, doubles in capacity. And it's led to this transcendent kind of change in our world over the last 20 years. If we can think about anybody here in business 20 years ago, 2006, you were thinking about a marketing spend at that point. You were probably thinking, do I invest some money into my website or do I give it to the yellow pages, right? Things change real quick and it compounds real fast with this concept of Moore's Law. And AI has put that on steroids, right? It's no longer doubling every 2 years, it's doubling every 6 months. So just transitive property of mathematics, if we were to think the difference between 2006 and our platforms and our spends and the things that we were doing then to now, it can be just as different in 2031. So I'm not trying to stress anybody out, but it's the reason why, putting this book together, having a place for us to truly understand this thing from a first principle standpoint, what's really happening out there, was really, really important to me. And it couldn't be done in a traditional way, right? Most books, you spend, a year or two researching it, a year writing it, 6 months editing it, and then distributing it. I did it very, very differently. I hit the NARPM conference circuit kind of end of 2024 with an idea around, hey, what are the big problems in property management? What are the biggest pains out there? What's changing around those problems? What's making them better? What's making them worse? How do we understand AI in relation to those problems and the things that we can fix? How do we build a business around AI? How do we think about wealth creation in the real estate world when it comes to AI? What's next? So these were all conversations that I was having with real operators, as well as our team and the operators inside of our team. And as I was having these conversations, when things started really pinging for me, I was taking that transcript, I was jamming with my chat GPT, custom GPT that has my voice and my frameworks, putting it out into a bunch of these different newsletters. That newsletter grew to having 8,000 subscribers and a real vibrant open rate and people that respond to it. And then at some point I realized, okay, I really have kind of a real thesis here of what's happening. And that's what this book is. In 8 months, put together like a flash frozen snapshot of exactly what's going on out here, right? So also luckily while that was happening, technology's gotten better, right? If it doubles every 6 months, it continues to get better, right? So when we were talking about kind of like who's at the edge of this stuff, what's possible, all this is now like Robert just described. Even you know, like some of the biggest doubters out there that were hating on it before are now talking about their Claude code and the things that they're vibe coding, right? So it's like, this is no longer a what's coming, this is what's really, really here. Thankfully, since we were talking about from real experience here, a lot of the stuff in this book is still very true to this day right now because it's based on first principles. And at the same time, you know, Vendoroo's been building over the last 2 years. We were real early to this AI game, and we're now at 500 plus agentic AI deployments. We're going to talk about what that means. We've audited 2 million plus tasks and the workflows and how they break. We've reached this level of the AI being able to make 98% of autonomous decisions. We'll talk about what that means as well. We're correcting 14,000 monthly edge cases across our customer ecosystem, right? This is where workflows break, right? Like, how do we keep a workflow going even when everything's not perfect? And it's a new data set, right? It's like this new data set that combines these tasks, these workflows, and ultimately for the first time ever, because the AI is like really running the operation and we built it to perform like a teammate, it's a phenomenal database on feedback. How do you manage people? How do you tell people how to do their job properly in a way that's easy to understand and someone can operate on? It's very similar to how we manage VAs. That's where it's going, right? So what we've realized is that today it's not about the technology. The technology is there, right? The technology is there. We all see what it's doing. It's really about that thing that we all suffer from as leaders, is that we go to a NARPA meeting, we go to a conference, we get these awesome ideas. We come back to our team, we're like, this is what we're doing now, right? And you're super pumped about it. And how do they react? Yeah, that's the sound right there, right? Like, here we go again. Boss just got a new wild hair. And we're just in this moment where it's moving so quickly, right? Like this thing is really transforming our industry. So we can't risk failure when we bring this back. It's about safety now, right? Like how to do this in a way that really sticks, that you're not burning one of those 1 bullets a year that you get to ask your team of and really get their buy-in, right? So I'm gonna cover the basics of like how we got here and how to understand it. And then I'm gonna talk about the 3 things that we see as like the biggest risks for implementation failure that we see over and over again and how to overcome them, right? So this book, Play Bigger, was transcendent for me because my first kind of like my career here was not very linear, probably pretty familiar for property managers, right? But my whole thing was like, how do you prove community creation is the future of business development? And I was trying to like change the world from an old way to a new way. And this book, Play Bigger, is kind of like the guidebook on that. And what it talks about is that when it comes to innovating, you always run the risk of it sounding like, oh, that's really cool, but not for me, right? So to get innovation to stick, you gotta base it on a formula. You gotta base it on a context change, creating a new missing, driving the need for innovation. And that essentially answers the why now, right? So if we just think about it like visually. Context is here, moves to here. Now back here, there's a vacuum of like maybe a new problem that we left uncovered. And over here, we're closer to an old problem that could have never been solved before, right? Context changes, there's a new missing, right? A new bridge to build. That drives the need for innovation. That's where we anchored this book, right? And really the most important part of it all is this idea in the book. The person that understands the problem the best will build the best solution. So when I started this research for this book, the first thing was, what are the problems, right? And one thing continued to stick out for me. This idea that as you scale, churn becomes more and more of a burden. And really churn is the thing that is most painful in property management. And it comes from a variety of places, right? But like in Michael Lee's story, Michael Lee, stop me if you heard this one here in Raleigh, former computer programmer, bought a property management company with like 200 doors, added technology to it so he was able to scale because it was old systems, scaled it to a certain point, and then he just couldn't get past that like scaling cliff where, you know, he's losing 10% of his doors a month. So at 400, he's losing 40 doors a month. So now to keep growing, he's got to add 40 a year just to stay even, and so on and so on. Couldn't get past that 600 door barrier. So he sold to one of these roll-ups, went in-house with one of these roll-ups to create product for them. And now he started seeing this growth through acquisitions being like, oh no, the churn here is like 20, 30, 40% when we're acquiring people, right? The churn continues to get worse. Why? Because the further it gets from like, I'm your guy or I'm your gal, and the way that you do it, the harder it is to maintain that quality of service for the rental property investor, right? For your ultimate client. So the problem here that I think is the biggest problem here is this churn, this feeling of being stuck. And when we first started talking about this late 2024, early 2025, the conversation was a lot around NOI. Right? This idea that these real estate investors don't realize the money we're making them. It's true, right? This is the best asset class to be in. And what y'all do as property managers is phenomenally complex. I'm a real estate investor myself. I would never self-manage. That's insane, right? Because what you do is so, so difficult. Here's the problem with the NOI discussion. That's a good discussion from self-managed to not self-managed, right? Like I might be able to drive you better returns. Hard to prove, but it's an impossible discussion property manager to property manager, right? Like I'm going to save you $50 more a month than that person. Right? It's just not like a big differentiator. And the NOI, it's great for property managers to like discuss NOI because you want to speak in the language of your clientele and what they care about, but it's not going to save you from this churn moment. My lived experience is that this churn moment happens because of pain in the world of the real estate investor. And if you're not there to walk them off that cliff, then they're likely to change property managers or worse, leave the industry. Right? Like not leave the industry, leave the asset class. And I can explain that in two stories. When I was getting into rental property investing, early 2021, I had a buddy, my buddy Brian Rosenthal that I used to live with in Southern California. He had spent his 30s burring and 1031 exchanging and fix and flipping his way to financial independence, right? He reached 40, financially independent, crushed it for 10 years. Really good 10 years to be doing it in, right? Like 2012 to 2022. And as we get to 2021, and I'm buying my first rental property, Brian is liquidating his portfolio. And I'm like, Brian, are you insane? Like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to put this thing on the S&P 500, man. I'm like, do you not understand the 5 profit centers? Don't you know that you get cash flow and equity and debt pay down and taxes and leverage? He's like, Pablo, I've been doing this for 10 years. I understand. What you don't understand is that this asset class comes with pain. And I don't deal with it very well. And no matter what, every once in a while in my portfolio, there's going to be a moment that just ruins my freaking week. And I just don't want to deal with it. So I have enough. I'm going to put it in the S&P 500, 7%, let it ride. I'm good. I'm 40, right? Did not leave the asset class because of NOI. He left it because of pain. My story, kind of similar. I started rental property investing through the company that gave me my first shot to build my business and like show this vision. It was a turnkey rental property investing company out of Jacksonville. I acquired 3 properties with them. And then early 2024, I bought a duplex myself and I'm house hacking it there. And obviously I'm not going to manage the unit next door because I'm not crazy. So I gave it to JWB to manage as well. And something happened 2 years prior to that. There was a roof repair. It was about $2,500. I was about to cut the check when my wife was like, didn't we work on this roof a year ago? Shouldn't there be some warranty? She double checked it, realized that there was a warranty. We brought it to the attention of our property manager, obviously went back, warranty covered it. But at that moment, my wife lost trust, right? She was like, do I need to manage this thing myself now? Every single decision? I'm like, no, you don't. Just trust me. She's like, well, right? So at that point, every little mistake that was being made by my property manager led to what I call a KTA, a kitchen table argument, right? Like this happens. Anytime that there's pain in real estate, you and your partner are going to sit across the table and be like, do these people really know what they're doing? Are they worth the cost? Should we switch? Should we not switch? Should we sell this house? Right? We went through that for 6 months. And then when we finally had a renter that lived next door, and now we didn't have that beautiful veil between us and the renter, and she would find out about every little thing, it just became too much for me. We found a different property manager for that unit, and now I have 2 property managers, right? We didn't churn because of NOI, we churned because of these KTAs. If my property manager would have been able to like sit down and walk us off the ledge every single time, maybe we would still only have 1. But that's just not the case, right? Oh, sorry. So I wrote about this in the book. I got kind of dumped on when I wrote about this. I have just been redeemed. This is from the PM Trends report that just was released by Peter Lohman and Jordan Muela. It says 92% of rental property investors are willing to sacrifice cash flow for a better rental property experience. Verified by Harris Polls. This is real. This is why people churn. It's because of the experience. And we all know that our job is so difficult, it's so complex, it's so task intensive, that the best thing we can do is create one experience, guarantee that, but anything that leaves the norm from there, you risk of dying by 1,000 paper cuts, right? So the idea that I want my rental property, like my property management company to sit down at the kitchen table with me, rub my back and tell me everything's going to be okay is ludicrous, because you're too busy to do that, and you risk not fulfilling all your promises to like fulfill this one special promise for somebody, right? This is the problem that AI can truly solve. This is the context that has shifted that can now do things differently, right? So let's ask actually the last property management trends report, what did owners really want? 92% of owners expect a response to an issue within 1 business day. 92% within a business day, right? Like not tomorrow, today. 72% of business owners, like over 70%, expect their non-emergency maintenance requests to be handled in under 4 days. Industry benchmark at that point was 6.1 days. 65% of owners want more control. They don't care that you'll die by 1,000 paper cuts. They want their way in specific things. And that's what they want. This is what we haven't been able to deliver until now. This is what AI is doing right now, right? So faster responses, pretty easy. If AI is handling the intake of a work order, the decision, right, the triage, the troubleshooting, the creation of the work order, selecting a vendor, communicating with a resident, following through until that's done, and sending the invoices out, guess what you now have? A perfect record of everything that has happened that is perfectly searchable. So now when someone calls up and says, what the hell is going on at property 123 Pine Tree? You can just ask the computer, and the computer can tell you, instead of having to do a 3-hour work order dive through texts and emails and work orders and calling vendors and stuff like that, right? Instant responses are now happening. That's easy, right? So how do we actually compress that time to fix? And we're going to get into everything else. I just want to show the lay of the land, right? Compressing that time, that seems like a harder problem, right? Robert just mentioned it. Everybody just started this weekend complaining about their air conditioner. Maintenance requests are not linear. They all come in clumps when a weather event happens, right? Now, here is a resident on 4th of July that's texting with an AI saying that my laundry machine does not work. Anybody here do laundry at 10 p.m. on 4th of July by choice? No. This lady needed to get her laundry done that day. Actually originally texted us at 7. AI got back to us, said, you know, all right, I need you to like check this one thing out. She's like, oh, I'm not even home. I was just putting this in because I didn't think you'd be working. All right, cool. Hit me up when you're home. At 10 o'clock, gets on with the AI, starts troubleshooting, realizes that there's like some gunk in that little receptacle thing. They're able to fix it. 10 o'clock at night, 4th of July. Lady was like in tears, thanking the AI for having helped her out, right? Like this is the type of thing that can happen when something is answering your residents 24/7. It can answer 50 of those residents if that was like a heat event at the same time, right? Like there's no like limited capacity, and we're seeing the ability to troubleshoot away about 10% of work orders. That compresses times to fix already, right? What about when there's a work order, right? This is another washing machine, also 9:20 p.m. I guess that's just when we do laundry, y'all, you know? Tenant responds, says, hey, this is what's going on with my washing machine. AI asks for a picture, gets a picture back, realizes that it's not the model that the resident was saying, says, oh, okay, cool. We actually know what's going on here, creates the work order, selects the vendor, schedules with the vendor by 8 a.m. the next morning. When the maintenance coordinator comes into work, the vendor's already scheduled to show up that day, right? Can we see how that can knock down from these like 6-7 days of like getting something resolved to maybe 2-3, right? So that's happening. The ability to give that. What about control? That seems a lot harder, right? Well, over the last 2 years, we've gone through many different variations of our onboarding process and how to like de-risk this for people. You know, we realized bringing them on in this way that's very like high touch is what's needed. In one of these sessions, we're reviewing one of these work orders, we're reviewing the AI triaging. The person says, oh, actually, that renter is an elderly person that's been there for 15 years. And they're friends with the owner. Can we just not troubleshoot anything for them and send them a tech every single time? Of course. Input to the AI. This property has an elderly resident who's not able to troubleshoot for any work order that comes through for this property. Acknowledge the work order has been received, and we're dispatching a technician to come and check it out. Then move dispatch to in-house technician. Voila, done. This is what happens on the back end. The AI is able to create a workflow that you can now see. It implements that workflow. It's now doing that in that property. No more do I need to call my process coach to draw me up a new flow chart? No more do I need to like print this thing out, train the team, add it to like the encyclopedia of work orders that they now have to flip through every time for every single exception and set them up to fail. It now does it every time, right? This is the dawn of like mass customization. We've got some data that shows that like how to go about this. But man, if it can do this, it can definitely say this owner has a $100 not to exceed and this one has a $500 not to exceed, right? It becomes a lot easier to give people what they want and manage their properties to their specifications when you're not setting up a human up to fail by having to like remember all these different things. And every time that you want to do it, the AI can help you create the process. So that's what's happening, right? We are now able to give the owners what they want. This idea that we work a 24-hour shift, 7 days a week is not fair to humans, but it's the reality of our business. And to be able to give those responses, give that high quality of touch, right? Like be able to like keep things moving even when everything is busy, when everything's shut down, and give the control that we want is now available. That's the big context shift.
So that's the promise of Agentic AI you just heard. We're about to go into these 3 implementation mistakes, but here's the aha that you're going to take away from this. AI doesn't break when everything is perfect. When everything is perfect, it's easy for your typical teammate to like make it through, right? It's like your great teammates that figure out how to continue pushing on even when the workflow isn't perfectly defined. And AI is the same way. You're going to learn in these 3 implementation mistakes that people are making. That's where the value comes from your AI provider. We've figured this out at Vendoroo. We have this team of AAA, what we call our AI adoption advisors, that is there to help you as you are onboarding. Make sure that you don't scale chaos by right-sizing your processes before going live, doing it for you so it's not just homework on your plate. We're there to help you when it comes to you're turning this thing on. It doesn't turn into an interruption machine as it's learning where the gaps are in your workflows and escalating things that we've seen before, so it doesn't have to ask you every single time and only asks you on the really, really small amount of outliers in there. And we have figured this out because we have been through it. We've been through this agentic transition before. We are there to help you, help your team understand what's in it for them. And a big thing that you can do, number 1 is go to Vendoroo.ai, sign up for a demo. But if you are still really, really curious, next week we're having a webinar with one of our clients that's been with us for a really long time, Dream Big Property Management, and their director of operations, Kogi Oyos. Nobody has spent more time working with Vendoroo than Kogi, but he realized at one point that he was only around 60% automation and that he could be doing much better. So he challenged us to teach him how to get to 90%. One day with David Normand, and he turned it on. He hasn't been below 80% automation since, and he's above 90%, which has transformed his role. We're hosting a webinar with him next week on June 11th at 3 p.m. Sign up for that. I'll put the link in the description for the show. I want you there to see exactly how Kogi went from this like AI that was just ordinary to AI that has really transformed his role, and they are now leading the market in customer service and the things that they do. And more importantly, he has the control that he wants, and he's able to work on the things that he wants. So go to Vendoroo.ai, sign up. Time to check this thing out, but definitely come to this webinar and see what Kogi has figured out.
So now let's understand the AI a little bit, just so everybody get up to speed. Anybody here already using an AI agent? All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I figured this is a tech advanced kind of like room, right? Just to get us all on the same page, we've all used ChatGPT, generative AI, right? It's like a genie. You rub the lamp, it grants you a wish, creates magic. You get to rub the lamp again. You got all the wishes you want. Thank you, ChatGPT. Right? Agentic AI is different. Agentic AI is the one that's really changing things because generative AI allows you to do your work faster. Agentic AI, you give it a job, right? It is not so much genie, it's more Terminator, but it's the good Terminator in this industry, right? And it's going to do the job until it reaches a moment where it can't anymore, right? Like where it just like reaches a dead end in the workflow. It's going to raise its hand. It's going to need a little bit of a correction, and then it can continue. But it can continue doing this job and improving and helping you do this job and replace you on it, right? And so what makes it truly agentic, right? Like this is our definition of agentic. It's the same thing that you would think of for a hire, right? Does it handle it? Does it have a job description that it takes care of without you having to get involved? Can it be tailored exactly to your operation? You're not going to go hire somebody and then have them do the job the way they want to do it without any regard to the way that y'all do it, right? And then does it drive business results, right? Like when you're thinking about budget, you're not going to hire somebody for something that doesn't actually move the needle. Pretty simple. The same way that we look at employees, can it do the job that we're hiring it for without me having to do it? Can it do it my way, right? Like, can I teach you how to do it my way? Whether you're coming from 10 years of experience, you still got to come over to my company and do our SOPs and follow our culture, right? And are you moving the needle? Are you here driving business results that are necessary? Are the questions that you ask yourself, if it's not doing that, it's not an agent, right? It's generative, it's helping you do a job faster, but it's not doing it for you. And it took me a while to figure out early on kind of like why it felt so meh, like this early AI stuff. And Kyler, who's the director of systems from Real Property Management, he broke it down for me pretty simple. The legacy softwares that we've been using since like the 2000s, they're built on a form-based architecture, right? It's like, fill in this form, you got choice A or B, and then if it goes to this one, it goes to the next choices. It's like a Plinko board in Price is Right, right? That works really well when you want to do outgoing automation. So, hey, I want you to contact someone until they're contacted and then stop, right? Easy. Once the automation needs to be two-way, once it's like asking somebody, are you available on Friday or Monday for this inspection? And they say, actually what I need is my roof to be repaired, it breaks, right? Because it doesn't have that option. It doesn't go into that form. This is where LLMs came into play, right? Like this like large language model, the thing that generative AI is built on. It's the difference between how we like search in Google versus we search on ChatGPT. It's just regular language. And now that enables the two-way communication. The legacy softwares that are built on these form-based scaffolding, they can add an LLM, but at that intersection, if it's not handled well, it breaks and it kind of like neutralizes both functions, right? So that's why the early on things that came out from the softwares that we all know and love have felt just kind of like, okay, this is okay, but it's not the thing that everybody's talking about, right? But now it's really changed, right? Like now we really are in a place where agents are everywhere. People are building agents, people are building APIs around it. There's the do-it-yourself option, right? Like there's the OpenClaw thing, there's Claude Code, all these different ways of doing it. So let's talk about what it looks like, right? Now that everybody's agentic, we essentially have 4 choices. We can continue to use the agent in closed platforms. When I say a closed platform, I mean somebody that has, anybody here not familiar with the term API? I won't say not so that you don't have to embarrass yourself. Who knows APIs? Yeah, cool. It's like the lock and key of where like 2 softwares meet and talk to each other, right? It's like the Rosetta Stone of translating this language to this language. These closed platforms, they have APIs, but you'll notice that their APIs are there to make them money. They're like, oh yeah, you can use my API if you pay me more or if it's in my own interest or whatnot, right? That's what I call a closed platform. And they'll tell you, you don't need to use all these other agents. We're building the best ones that work inside this system. Don't you love our system, right? In a world that's moving so quickly, those people are not your friend. Just going to say it. Then there's open platforms. Rentvine comes to mind, right? Platforms built around an open API meant to give you the options to plug in whatever you want, right? Those folks, they're building agents. They're going to compete with all the other agents, but they're also saying, we want you to use whatever employee you want to hire however you want, right? They're your friend. Then there's agent builders. That's us. We used to be the only agent builder in the property management space. Now there's a bunch. It's great. The category's maturing and it's happening. The difference between the platforms and the agent builders, I would say, is the platforms have built cars and they're adding cruise control and autonomous driving. Agent builders are building drivers. They're meant to just drive your car however it is, right? Like these are platforms like ours that integrate into these other systems so that you don't have to have like other logins and other codes or whatever. You just now have an AI running the show for you in the things that you define it for. And then there's the DIY platforms, OpenClaw, Claude Code, all that stuff. You can now build it yourself as well. So in a world of options, these are your 4 options, and these options matter based on these adoption risks we looked at, right? So where we're at now, 500 agentic deployments deep, we've been able to like look across a portfolio, see who's doing really, really well, see who's really struggled with it, and not just us, but our AI is now speaking to us, telling us what's really working. And what it identified is that there's a population now of folks that are getting these level of results. 98% of decisions made by the AI. In a maintenance order, there's about 19 to 22 kind of like touch points that you're going to have to make a decision on, right? Like we're not saying 98% of work orders are automated. We're saying those touch points, 98% of them are generally done by the AI. Only 2% of them need a human to get involved to like be like, oh, no, okay, do this, right? So that's what, one out of every 2 work orders has like 1 task that has to get done in the morning kind of thing, right? Almost 10% of work orders handled without a vendor. Troubleshot away without needing a work order, without needing a vendor. 42% reduction in open work orders. This one's tricky, right? This is when we take on a client, we generally see that you'll have somewhere close to 20% of your of your properties might have an open work order. It's closer to like 18, 19%, right? But let's call it 20% to be even. When you come on board, because the AI is able to follow the workflow through completion, through closeout, a lot of these work orders that are open in the platforms that we see are just like minor closeout things that people haven't gotten to because they've had to run to the next fire, right? This is open tabs in the brain. The AI immediately closes that stuff up, throttles it down. You don't have these open tabs in the brain. You have more capacity, right? That also includes the troubleshooting and all that other stuff that happens faster. 37.5% time to resolution, close to resolution. That's equivalent of going from 6 days to 4 days, right? Getting that done quicker. 99.9% vendor assignment accuracy and 94% resident satisfaction with the AI. When the AI is handling all these communications, it has this like ever powerful ability to now understand resident sentiment as it's happening. We're going to talk about that, right? And 94% of residents are happy with it. This is a big, big shift of going from waiting for a Google review to happen to like understanding who's suffering and being able to like put out the ember before it turns into a fire. Major, major shift. So let's talk about the risks. Risk number one. This is something that we saw early on of people really succeeding, and it continues to play out. This idea of the teammate mentality versus the software mentality. When somebody buys a new piece of software, you think of it like a tool, right? You're just like, man, this thing is awesome. It can do what it does, and I just got to get good at using it. But I can't expect this thing to get better because, you know, I'm going to put in like tickets or whatever, and they may or may not listen to me. But you come into it with like a really fixed mentality. With an AI agent, the first day is like a new hire, right? Your first day of your new hire, they might come in here with 7-8 years of experience, and that's the worst day that they're going to be for you, right? Like as they learn your way, they get better over time. Right? What does that actually look like? We see folks that will come on board and say to themselves, I don't understand why I can't do this already, right? That's the equivalent of hiring somebody and be like, I don't know why you don't just think like me, right? So onboarding it and treating it like a new hire means giving it feedback, right? Having weekly one-on-ones with your new teammate, right? Like our onboarding process is weekly meetings with the AI and your coach in order to continue to like teach it your way and knowing that it's only going to get better, right? The payoff is not just all of a sudden you're doing something faster. The payoff is like when you hire a great teammate, this person now does it, I can go do something else. Billy can run maintenance while I can go business develop, right? Suzanne can be my BDR so I can work on processing, right? Like how do you offload this thing onto someone else is the teammate mentality. This is not I'm learning to do this so that I can continue to just like keep doing the same job I'm doing, is I'm hiring somebody to replace me out of this role so I can go do better work. And it happens just like a teammate, right? What we see is we see this happen across roughly 30-day patches. The first 30 days, you're learning about it, it's learning about you, right? We call this like the overprotective parent phase. You're actually watching the AI communicate with everybody and giving it feedback nonstop, asking it why it did it, asking it, you know, like giving it a thumbs up, thumbs down, right? Like saying, oh, hey, actually next time, do it like this. We got a client in Florida, actually my other property manager, she was doing this as she was onboarding. The AI asked, it was a water heater issue, and the AI was like, oh, okay, maybe, have you gone to the basement to check the water heater? She's like, oh, hey, Florida, we don't have basements, right? Don't say that. Ask about a utility closet, ask about a garage, right? Those kinds of things, just watching it communicate, keeping on training it. As you get comfortable with it, right? Because you've done this now, you're seeing it do it, like it's like it shows you just like if you were like helicopter parenting a new hire and seeing that they know the job, now you start to delegate. Now you move from like overseeing everything to trust but verify, right? The same way that you do with an employee. You just, every once in a while, you check a little bit of their work, you spot check it. If everything's going good, good. Otherwise, they're going to bring you some stuff and you can help them through it as well. Same exact thing with the AI, same kind of process. If it doesn't know something, it's a good thing. It's telling you where you have gaps on your instructions for them to know how to do their job, just like a new hire. And then once you get comfortable with the delegate piece, now you really start to optimize, right? Now you're really thinking about like, hey man, what knobs am I moving in the ecosystem around this new employee in order to make the company run really well around an AI? And that can be a lot of different things. But this is the data that Rue has really, really told us. The teams that do really well give twice the feedback from teams that don't. It's that simple, right? Twice as many, why'd you do that? Twice as many, oh, I like what you did here, right? Thumbs up or thumbs down on the rating. Twice as many, actually, I'd prefer you do it this way, right? Easy peasy. Just like anybody that you would bring onto your operation, the more kind of like feedback you give them early on, the more that they're going to know the way to do the job and the better that they're going to get. And more context, less customization. Number of workflows does not correlate to a better operation. What correlates to a better operation is telling them why decisions are made, right? Not telling them, ooh, don't send Ray to that job. Say, I know that Ann is our number one plumber, but Ray is really good at jobs where you got to like break through the drywall because he doesn't make a mess. So that's why we're sending Ray to this job, right? AI starts to learn. It starts to understand. Sure, you have a first plumber, second plumber, third plumber, but now this one, like we give that preference to this type of job. Or Ray's a workaholic. He doesn't have a family, so he's great after hours, but he also stays up late at night, so he's not great in the morning, right? Things like that. Things that you would tell your assistant about your vendor network, that type of context. The reason why you're making those decisions, that's what gets the AI to start, like not just fishing, but learning how to fish. Right? Instead of this workflow, this workflow, this workflow, this workflow, this workflow, right? The chances of just giving it competing information inside of workflows goes up the more workflows you give it, whereas giving it context allows it to make its own decisions. This is how you de-risk this idea of the software mentality. Risk number 2, interruptions kill momentum, right? You're bringing this on, you're telling your team, I got this idea, it's going to make life awesome, and all of a sudden, have you guys ever hired like somebody that's like a super go-getter that like the first month that they're with you, like you're like, man, I got this super talented person, but if they come into my office one more time, I'm gonna like punch myself in the face, right? AI is kind of like that, right? Like it doesn't have emotions. So like every time it reaches something that it's not like, it knows how to do the job on day one. It has about, or at least ours, has about like 8-9 years of experience as a maintenance coordinator, but it's never worked with you directly, right? So it's like this perfect mirror of, hey, this is how I think I should do it, but if I'm not sure, I'm gonna come ask you, right? So these escalations are going to happen a lot early on. And if that starts happening, like if you're the leader or somebody on your team is managing it, they're going to start thinking, God, is this worth it? Right? Like I've done this before. I've gone through this before with someone, tried to train him. It didn't work. Then they burned. Like, are we going to like move away from this software? I'm out. Right? This is how interruptions kill it. Right? And this is where these interruptions come from. These hand raises come from. They come from vendor performance, closure and confirmation follow-ups, PM and owner inactivity, resident follow-ups, and estimate approval delays. These are things that over the first 30, 60, 90 days, you're going to find that the way that you have it defined in your process works really great in your head, but it's not 100% clear in some of these cases. So the name of the game early on is smart escalation management, right? Knowing exactly, knowing who is going to, when that hand is raised, who corrects it, doesn't have to be you. Right? How is your agent provider covering that piece for you so that only the escalations that have to come to you are the ones that are coming to you, right? That's a choice. In the DIY platforms, you're going to have to figure that out yourself. You can do it, right? You can name one person for this and maybe you're at the other level, but you really have to map that piece out or else it's going to burn somebody out, right? It's going to, or it faces that risk. They're not yet at that like delegate level before this happens. So they're still thinking this is more work for me. They're not thinking, oh, okay, I'm training something that never forgets and it's only going to get better. And if I just spend this time training it, long term, this is a great decision for me. They're still in reactive mode when it comes to that. Our team, like we said, we handle 14,000 edge cases per month. It's real. At the scale that we're at, that's why we've realized that we need to, create this smart escalation management, and we need to have a team that like absorbs that escalation for folks before it gets to them. So we have this like 50 plus trained human experts that's their job, right? Like the AI has judgment, there's an AI judge that judges the AI, and then we have another team that's doing it as well, right? In order to curve that piece. And in the 76,000 work orders that we've done, we've had 33 errors because of this smart escalation management. And this is what it's showing us. Every one of these decisions has 445 data points, right? Like all the context that goes into every single maintenance decision, there's 445 data points. We would have never uncovered this data if Rue didn't tell us, because it like defies human judgment, right? 1 in every 50 work orders has a new insight as things level out, right? There's a new, oh, okay, here's a new thing that we should consider that we add to the judgment. And in 90 days, the average person onboarding does 85 edits to their existing workflow, right? This isn't 85 new workflows. This is oh, I didn't realize that I hadn't defined the lockout condition perfectly right for you to be able to like do it at 3 a.m. with your eyes closed kind of thing. Let's just like add this little piece of it, right? That's why we add that piece. So as you're thinking about this, de-risking this burnout piece, not the burnout piece, de-risking the interruption piece is whoever you're going to do business with, having the conversation, where does it go when the workflow breaks, right? Does it come to me every single time when the workflow breaks? Or is there some kind of padding around that so that it's not just going to like all of a sudden bring me all the chaos that before I was just blind to and freak me out, right? So think about that when you're onboarding AIs and do it for sure when you're doing your DIY. Third risk, this is something that, you know, kind of like took us a little while to realize, but it's very, very real. Employee sabotage. Think about it. Everybody is hearing in the media, AI is coming for your job. Then your boss shows up. We're going to AI your job. What do you think is going to happen, right? Makes sense. We have found that it's really, really important. It sounds basic, but it's really, really important that as you roll out AI, you paint the vision of what's in it for them. It's that simple. It's not just, oh, this is going to automate all this stuff. It's going to be great for the business, increase returns. This is, hey, we're bringing this thing in so that you don't have to do this crap and you can do this stuff that you've always wanted to do, right? That's simple. Having that conversation goes a really, really long way, and then reinforcing it, right? As they're training the AI, being like, you're doing this so that you no longer have to like go chase down vendors on Saturday at 1 p.m., right? You won't have to do this as long as we get this right. And then you get to do the things you've always wanted to do. Bring coffee to like homeowners and whatever, like build relationships with your vendors and all the things that really, really move the needle. You got to paint that picture. For us, it's pretty simple, right? Like these are the things that a maintenance coordinator used to have to do. They used to triage, finish the triaging, assigning a vendor, scheduling, making sure that the service is getting executed, closing out the completion. All these kinds of things represent like right here in this snapshot, it's 131 tasks that need to get done. And then there's escalations. There's the things that are like a little bit out of the norm. The new workflow for a maintenance coordinator in our system is everything below pending escalations, that's just being handled. That's in the trust but verify bucket when you have time. When you start your day, you're just like, oh, I got 3 escalations. I just got to answer those questions and everything continues to get done, right? So like painting that picture for the folks that use our software has been transformative, because if not, they do this and then they like think they got to go do all this other stuff. And then they're like, my job hasn't really changed, right? Like, they're like, why am I doing all this? Why am I just sitting here babysitting something else? What we spend a lot of time educating people on is like, no, don't worry about this stuff. Handle the escalation and then move to over here. Look at all this world of data. This is your vendor network. These are the distribution of vendors that you have. Do you have too much concentration in one or another? Do you need to go out and recruit another plumber? Is your handyman doing too much of the work? Oh, look over here. This vendor is taking an average of like 12 messages to get a job done. It should be about 6 or 8 messages. Give them a call. See if they're understaffed. See what's going on, right? Like managing the forest through the trees and defining that job expectation of what it's going to look like on the other side is the conversation that you need to have. So as you are procuring these solutions and you're thinking about agents, again, ask that question. What will the new role inside of my company be? And how can I teach my teammate how to do it? This is the thing that we're most proud of like how things have changed. This is the resident sentiment analysis that we're talking about. So we tell folks, do the escalations and then jump into this like resident sentiment analysis. Over here, it shows that a resident is upset because of a vendor delay. That means that the maintenance coordinator, handled the escalation, looked at their like forest, everything looks healthy. Now they're looking here, they're like, okay, this Q Bryant person, they seem to be getting upset. What's going on? They can double click in here, look at what's happening within that work order. Is the vendor delayed because of something that the vendor did? Is it just something that's happening? Do they call the resident, just be like, hey, we know that they're delayed. Let me give you the update. I promise I got this. I'm on top of it, right? That's what putting out embers instead of fighting fires looks like. And that is the type of vision that you want to paint for your teammate, right? It's like, this is what your old job was. This is what the new job task list will be. And this is the type of stuff you get to do. This is why it's better for you. That's how you de-risk this idea of sabotage. And to me, this idea of sabotage, this is really what's in it for them, right? Has anybody here ever Google image search property management memes? It's pretty depressing. Like it's like a celebration of bad mental health, which, yeah, we laugh about it because that's all we can do, right? But the reality of the matter is, I mean, this is a endemic in our industry, right? Like we have like a 80% churn rate for people in property management in 5 years because these jobs are so like redundant and task intensive. And like you're carrying all this weight around and you're watching your kid at their soccer game, but you have to have your phone on you because you don't know if someone's going to call you. That I think, Dave, what'd you say? You slept with your phone next to you on your bed for like 5-6 years? 6 years of just like being woken up by phone calls, right? To me, this is where it really matters. This is one of our clients sending us a text message saying that, I mean, a horrible human situation. His property management's daughter was dealing with terminal cancer, and she texted him and says, you know what? I'm happy that I'm able to spend time with my daughter right now because I know that Ruth's handling this stuff. This to me is like the main lesson in this book, right? While the rest of the world is like worried about AI taking jobs, maybe they're right to do so, maybe they're not. But in property management, I think we're different. In property management, the jobs that we've given most of the folks in this industry are not good for them. They're not meant for human scale. They have these outrageous expectations. The real value, the real thing of what's in it for your team is this idea that you're going to give them meaningful work. There's a term called the new collar economy, whether it's manufacturing or property management or all these other roles that used to be like really intense and task intensive, that we just needed humans to do these repetitive motions and like hope to not burn out, are now shifting because of AI. It's the new collar economy. These roles now will have meaning. This idea of like making the residents' day better, because you know that they just had like 3 different maintenance work orders that happened that weren't anybody's fault. It's just an old house and it had to happen, but you get to show up and do something nice for them because now you know it's happening, you have the time to do it, and your AI teammate is doing it on the back end. That gives people meaning, right? Like that's the type of work that we really, really like to do. And I'll give you an example of what happened with us, right? For us to be able to build this software, we knew that we couldn't just kind of like tiptoe into like generative AI to then develop agentic AI, because we knew that in order to build this thing, we had to first own the outcome. We had to first prove that we can take the mental burden of maintenance off of someone's shoulders in order to then build the AI that does it, right? So when we first started, we were basically a remote teammate maintenance operation. And our remote teammates all had an AI that they were like jamming with and informing their informations to do their job better, quicker, or whatnot, right? At a certain point, that AI got good enough to make the decisions, and the remote teammates were like no longer having to like deal with the barrage of intakes and the calls and make the decisions. They're like seeing what it was and executing on the decisions. And then as the AI got better, it started able to make the decision and take the action. And, you know, Dave, myself, and a couple of our other partners were at a leadership offsite. It was September last year in Sonoma. And we looked around, we're like, what are we going to do with this team of 50 people now that this AI is able to do their job? Do we let them go? These are the types of questions that we're going to start asking ourselves as AI gets better and better and is able to do the jobs. For us, the answer was clear. We followed the advice that we keep hearing. The most AI company should be the most human company. Put humans in the role that only they can do, that deliver extreme value, right? These are the team of 50 plus that we realized, oh, you know, just because they're not doing this, we have this team of like 50 expert maintenance people that are experts at AI. Why not bring them in to do this like really white glove, like onboarding service that helps you normalize your operation, that handles these edge cases, that's continuing to provide this safety layer. Only humans can do that part right now, right? And I say that story because when you succeed with this stuff, you're going to have this decision to make. You're going to have the decision to automate towards humans or away from humans. Like you're going to be able to have a business that runs itself mostly, right? And you can have a really small team, or you can put your team in a position where they get to do stuff that they've always wanted to do, that you've always wanted them to do, that's going to make you completely different from the rest of your competition. For us, the choice is clear. Automate towards humans. That's what's coming. And I'll leave you with just the idea that as you do this, you don't have to do this alone, right? Like you can choose to build your own AI. You can choose to work with whatever technology provider is out there. But we want to be that partner that helps you kind of like sort through this. Like our team of humans, we've done this now this many times. We've been through it. We messed up a whole bunch of them in the beginning. We know where it went wrong, and we want to be that support that helps you not just like start and normalize, but helps you make those next level decisions. So I have the book, if you don't have the book. We've developed a diagnosis. Like now that we have this data set, we can run your work order history and a couple of other documents against the rest of our population, tell you how you compare to everybody. This is back here. It'll like give you like a like a ranking score, tell you your different categories, and then give you a whole bunch of different insights that then tell us this is the opportunity that you have, and like if you invest in this is what will happen. We'd love to run these for you, and we'd love to have you for dinner and answer any questions about Vendoroo or the product or anything else. Thanks, y'all. I really appreciate being here.